only see in adults, and we're seeing this more and more frequently. One of the things that's happening is that actually, when I first started in medicine, people were a lot more slender than they are today. This was back in the 70s. People weren't quite as big as they are today. They didn't eat as much fast food. Taco Bell didn't exist. If you wanted a hamburger, you just about had to go to McDonald's because Burger King didn't exist at the time. There weren't, Wendy's didn't exist at the time. So there wasn't as much fast food out there. Pizza Hut was about the only pizza parlor that you could go to find a pizza if you wanted a pizza, or a local pizza parlor. And because of that, people weren't nearly as large. And one of the things that has happened is that we have seen a massive increase in type 2 diabetes. Why? We see fat kids, and we never saw fat kids before. Because, of course, if you watch television, there weren't cartoons on 24/7. There were no video games at the time. So kids, in order to take up their time, they went outside and played. And maybe they didn't run around like crazy dogs, but at least they were outside, and they were doing something outside. They were being a lot more active than they are today. But now, of course, we see a lot of obese children, and with the obese children, we're seeing things like high blood pressure. Pediatricians never even thought about high blood pressure in children before. The only ones that had high blood pressure were the ones that were already sick, that had some other problem. These were the only ones that they saw high blood pressure. Now they see it in lots of different kids. And it's mostly the inactive kids. They see high cholesterol. That's insane. They should be burning all this stuff off. But if they're sitting there just moving their thumbs and moving their brains, well, let's pretend they're moving their brains, then they're not really burning off all the food that they're eating. They're eating a lot of chips and stuff. And drinking, I don't know, the monster drinks so that they can stay up all night and play their video games. So we're seeing a lot more high blood pressure. They're having breathing problems because they're gaining weight. We're seeing sleep apnea in children. We never saw sleep apnea in children. Never had to worry about that before. Now we're seeing lots more asthma. We're seeing a lot more sleep apnea. We're seeing fatty liver disease. This is what you see in alcoholics. And we're seeing it in little chunkers like this guy. It's new. It has never happened before. And it's one of the other reasons is because parents won't say no to their children. They just keep throwing the foods that they want. Like my sister. My sister raised her children eating cheese pizza, French fries, Coke, and those stupid breakfast sausages. And that's all they ate. Now one of them is dying. The youngest one is dying. She has an autoimmune disease. She has liver involvement with her arthritis. And she's only in her 30s. She's going to be dead before she's 50. She's not going to make it. It's because she was stupid. And she did stupid things. And now she's going to die young. But at least she had a good time. And it's worth it, right? Isn't it worth it to die young as long as you did what you wanted to do? Isn't that okay? It's better to burn out than to fade away, right? I should play that song, shouldn't I? Well, I can't because I can't. I've got the wrong. I'll play that next time. But just remember, it's better to burn out than fade away. Of course, that's a song about Johnny Rotten. And there's only two of us in the room that have a clue what I'm talking about. Okay. During adolescence, obesity and metabolic syndrome are linked to impairments in brain structure, reduced hippocampal volumes, reduced white matter. White matter gives you your intelligence. Your hippocampus will take thoughts and will put it in your long-term memory. So if we have hippocampal problems, now we can't remember anything. If we have white matter problems, we're not real smart, damn it. That's a tragedy, kind of, in an odd sort of way. Oh, wait a minute. We just saw, what's the picture? This is a normal weight individual. You can see how active their frontal lobe is. This is an obese person. These are obese people. And as you can see, there's not nearly as much activity in their frontal lobe. This is where you do all your thinking. Why is that? Because they don't think as deep of thoughts. They're not using their white matter in their brains. So obesity can actually make you stupid. Can I use that word, stupid? Is that all right? Obesity promotes hyperinsulinemia, an endocrine disorder in which insulin progressively loses its effectiveness in sweeping glucose from the bloodstream into the cells of the body. This leads, of course, to type 2 diabetes, hyperinsulinemia, where your body, your cells become less sensitive to insulin. As sad as that is. The liver manufactures more triglycerides and cholesterol in people with excess body weight, increasing the risk of arthritis, gout, and gallbladder disease. I have gout. I've had gout since I was 17 years old. Not because I was fat, I was a runner actually. So that's not why I have gout. I have gout because of a genetic proclivity that I have and nobody else in my family has. It hurts like the devil. This joint in your toe will swell up, and it's excruciatingly painful to the point that you can't walk on it. I control mine with my diet. I'm able to do that, and of course I've been doing this since I was 17. There are certain foods I cannot eat. One of them is fish. I can't eat fish. That's okay, I don't like fish anyway. I can't drink beer. It's okay, I don't like beer anyway. I can't drink wine. That's okay, it tastes like rotten grapes to me anyway. So I don't drink wine. But I have to stay away from certain foods, and I'm really good at it. I'm so good at it that I really haven't had a gout attack for probably 40 years. So I'm really good at it, at controlling my problem. Complications following surgery happen more often among the obese. They hate doing surgery on people that are obese. A lot of times they have a hard time keeping their airway open because when they knock them out, when they anesthetize them, all your muscles will relax completely. And because of that, they have a hard time keeping their airway open. They're more likely to have some kind of a reaction. They don't know how much anesthesia to give the individual because a lot of it is dissipated by their body mass. So they're not exactly sure. There are formulas that they can use, but sometimes the formulas don't work. They hate it, and I don't blame them. These people are more likely to die on the operating table than anybody else. The person that they like is the skinny smoker, and the reason they like the skinny guys is because they don't have to worry about any of this stuff. The formula works on on the skinny guy. Not only that, but when they come out of surgery and they're waking up, smokers cough really good, and that's what they need. They need the guy to cough. So if you're a non-smoker, exactly, that's exactly. If you're a non-smoker, it takes forever for you to start coughing. So the recovery room people just hate non-smokers. Of course, I'm a non-smoker. The last time I had surgery, I woke up right at the end of surgery. Right at the end. So I didn't even have to go to the recovery room. They just rolled me into my room. There's a strong correlation between obesity and cardiovascular disease in men and women. Even after statistical adjustments are made for blood pressure, cholesterol, smoking, and age, there's being fat is very destructive to your heart. It's forcing your heart to work harder. As soon as you lose weight, that goes away. I think I told you the story of the really obese lady that couldn't get out of her house, couldn't fit through the door. Yeah, she died of congestive heart failure. She had so much fat around her heart, we couldn't get to it to do heart compressions on it. Couldn't find it. We were hitting her chest and we were just sliding all over the place. And I was the one trying to do it. And of course, sometimes I'm not a very nice person. And I was getting mad. And I'm standing there pumping away on her. And you know, like I said before, I was able to do heart compressions standing there, and she was laying on the floor. She was this big. That's how big she was. She was so fat. She had so much fat. And here I am pumping away on her, and of course, I'm hitting her, and I'm just sliding all over the place. Your heart's right there. I know where it is. It's right there. I could shoot and kill somebody because I know exactly where it is. I've cut these things out of people's bodies before. They weren't alive. Anyway, pumping away on this lady, and I'm just sliding all over the place. It was terrible. Of course, we had to take her shirt off. It was nasty. It was like I can't even explain to you how bad it was.
There's a film Johnny Depp made with What's Eating Gilbert Grape.
Oh, yeah.
Obesity and weight in that.
His mother's grossly obese.
Tragic end.
Did she die of congestive heart failure? It's tough. We had another lady that, this was in the hospital, so I didn't have to work on it. She came in and she had so much fat around her heart that they decided that the only way to save her life was to take all that stuff out. Well, they took it out, and of course you can't just throw it away. You can't throw anything away. You have to check everything to make sure there's nothing in it, or just find out what's in it. So they had to bring it all down to the lab. Of course, I was right there. I'm the one that checked all this stuff in. They brought it down in the stretcher. It was 100 pounds of fat. You know, and it was human fat. It's not like it was animal fat. It was human fat. And the poor pathologist had to check every bit of that stuff out. I mean, it took him all day. I mean, he's just pulling the stuff apart. This has got gloves. No. This is after we started wearing gloves.
Now with sumo wrestlers, they have to pack it on all those. Pack it on
What?
Sumo wrestlers.
Oh yeah, they're putting on a lot of fat. A lot of those guys die right after they stop wrestling. But so they have started a new program in Japan. You know, it's against the law in Japan to be overweight. So as soon as they stop wrestling, they have to go on a diet. And sometimes it kills them because you can't just lose all that fat. That's what happened to that lady. We pulled all that fat off of her heart. Her body went into shock and she died. But it was our last great hope, but it was misplaced, unfortunately. She died. She would have died anyway. Maybe she would have lived a couple more days. Who knows?
Yeah, the only living grandparent she has to have said you were saying the procedure that fat off around the heart.
Right.
Every once in a while. I think she went through 2 surgeries already.
And then taking it off right around the heart.
Yeah,
Not 100 pounds. I'm guessing not 100 pounds. That's a real shock to the system, you can imagine. Taking that much weight off of something. It's one of the reasons why if you ever go on a diet, you feel like you're too heavy, don't lose weight really fast. If you lose weight really fast, your body will go into shock. I had a friend that, and he wasn't that big, but he decided he was going to lose weight, and he did, and he was obsessive compulsive. That's his problem. So when he lost weight, he lost weight. He lost everything that he wanted. He was religious about. His exercise, he always exercised for a select amount of time. He always did a select number of exercises. He ate, the palm of his hand, one of these kind of deals. He never ate any, he never drank Coke, he never drank anything sugary. He stopped drinking beer, he stopped drinking wine, and he died of cancer in about 6 months. Because, he lost all this weight, but it shocked his system to the extent that he had that kind of a reaction. And he developed brain cancer, developed a brain tumor and died.
Now Marius has lost a couple of weight, I can see.
Yeah, but see, Marius and I talk all the time, and he's lost, I don't know, what did he weigh? He weighed over 200 pounds, now he weighs 175. But he lost it over a year, which is good. He lost it really slow. And he's maintaining himself in a wise way. It's because we have conversations from time to time. And anytime I see him getting, he's a little obsessive. So anytime I see him doing that, I'll slip him a Mountain Dew. So a Code Red. So he's less wacko. Anyway. He's sane because he's my friend. Or maybe he's insane because, you didn't think about that. Obesity increases the risk of certain cancers, of course. But if you try to lose weight too fast, you can do the same thing to your system. I don't understand. If you don't want men looking at your butts, why in the world put words across your fanny? Does that make any sense? I've never understood that. If you put words on something, people are going to read it, right? Isn't that the whole purpose of... She's a gold digger. We can see it. She's admitting it right there. Not exactly sure. Digger. I'm sorry. Did I say digger? I apologize. She's a digger. Gold digger. Among adults, obesity is associated with lower psychological well-being, especially among women, and with a marked increase in depression. Obese people are mistakenly stereotyped as being slow, lazy, and undisciplined. Compared to women of equal intelligence, obese women earn less money, are less likely to be married, are underrepresented among corporate CEOs. And of course, they wear interesting clothes. Obesity is bad, but skinny is also bad. But skinny is bad for older people. Before the age of 65, obesity makes it more likely that you will die. We're talking about dying here, okay? And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We're talking about dying. You're more likely to die if you're obese and you're under the age of 65. Over the age of 65, you're more likely to die if you're slender. As bizarre as that sounds. After the age of 65, the people that are the most likely to die are people who are underweight. They had a movement in the United States. When was this? It started in the 90s. The idea was that if you always leave the table hungry, that you will live longer. That was the idea. And I've got a friend that's doing this. He's a botanist. He's teaching up in St. Louis. And his idea is that as long as he is grossly slender, that he's going to live longer. And he's right. He will live longer unless he does this until he's 65. And then he's more likely to kill himself. People that are that slender are also suicidal, but we won't even entertain the idea that he's going to commit suicide. But after the age of 65, if he is still that slender, and he's probably 15% below his ideal body weight, if he's still this slender, he's more likely to die. You have no reserves. This is a problem. If you get sick, you stay sick for a long time. And this has happened to him. He caught a cold, and he was sick for 3 weeks. He had a cold for 3 weeks. Nobody has a cold for 3 weeks. Well, he did because he has no body fat. He had no reserves. So he got extremely sick. They had to put him in the hospital. They almost lost him because he had no reserves. And he was in his 30s at the time. And you can't convince him because he read that book about living longer if you are always hungry. So he's always hungry. I've gone out to eat with him, and despite the fact that I'm old as dirt, and I'm a lot smaller than he is, shorter than he is, he's like 6'7" and weighs 140. I mean, he's like a beanpole. Literally, he's a beanpole. He's 6'5", I guess. I'm sorry. Did I say 6'7"? He's 6'5". And he weighs 140 pounds. He's going to die. If he ever gets sick again, he's going to die. He can't fight off anything. He has no reserves whatsoever. If he gets sick, his only reserves are his muscles, and he doesn't have that many muscles, as you can imagine, at 6'5" and 140 pounds. Another risk factor is yo-yo dieting, which puts excessive strain on the cardiovascular system. He's got a new girlfriend, and she's just as skinny as he is. Strangely, she's half Blackfeet, which is kind of fun. She's also a spook. She's a spook. Twin and adoption studies have shown that heredity plays about a 30% chance of causing obesity. Heredity contributes to obesity by dictating the basal metabolic rate. As you can see, these two twins have cankles. I know. Aren't they cute? One longitudinal study that lasted 32 years found that people were the most likely to be obese if they had friends who were obese as well. The closer the friend, the more likely that they would be obese. People under stress are more likely to eat in the absence of hunger. And of course, they're eating in order to dissipate the stress. They're eating to dissipate their depression. And because fat has tryptophan in it, tryptophan is a precursor for serotonin. The more fat you eat, the better you feel. And if you eat chocolate fat on top of that, then we have other hormones that are working on your bodies. The average woman in the United States today is 5'4" tall. So if you're taller than 5'4", you're above average. My wife is 5'4". I've got an average wife. They weigh between 140 and 150 pounds. She weighs more than that, and we won't go into that. They weigh 140, 150 pounds. Their waist size is 34 to 35 inches. My waist size is 33 inches. I don't make a very good woman, I guess. Their dress size is 12 to 14, which doesn't mean anything to me because I have no idea what dress sizes means. My wife won't tell me. 50 years ago, the same woman weighed 120 pounds. Her waist size was 10 inches smaller, 24 to 25 inches, and she wore a size 8 dress. This was 50 years ago. Wait a minute, 50 years ago. When would that be? 1970. Oh, wait a minute, that's when I was dating, 1970. So the average person when I was dating in the 1970s was smaller, was a lot smaller than people are today. So if I started dating today, I would find people bigger than what the last time I dated. Okay. I'm not going to date. For one thing, I'm really old, and for another thing, I've been married for 40 years. We were supposed to go away on our 40th wedding anniversary. I told you we were going to go up and build a youth center up on one of the reservations in North Dakota. North Dakota. Turns out she's going to go, and I'm going to stay in Iowa. I know. She just worked this out. I have no idea. Does that mean she doesn't like me anymore? Well, we've been married for 40 years. I guess I should be able to handle that. 11.9% of the boys living in a family that is above the poverty level are obese. That's 2 out of every 10, 1 out of every 5. 21% of the boys living below the poverty line are obese. 12% of the girls living above the poverty level are obese. 19.3% of the girls living below the poverty line are obese. Now, why would poor people be more likely to be obese than people that are living above the poverty line? Why would they be more obese? What's wrong with poverty? Seems like if you've got lots of money, then you can afford more food. Ah, they eat better food. That must be it. She's kind of chunky. And there's her husband. And he's got a German cross on his... I know. This has to do with hippies back in the 1970s. Both men and women who have a college degree are less likely to be overweight. Reasons for people in a lower socioeconomic status being overweight: limited access to healthcare services, less knowledge about the dangers of obesity, less likely to be able to afford fresh fruits and vegetables, that's what you guys were talking about, and they get less exercise. They don't have to get less exercise, they just do get less exercise. Reasons people who are low in socioeconomic status are obese: they don't eat breakfast. Did everybody have breakfast in here? You might not have breakfast. Evil. Eat something for breakfast. An apple. What did I have for breakfast? I had a 16-ounce glass of V8 juice. There you go. That's like 5 servings of vegetables. I know. Had lots of salt in it. They don't eat breakfast. They don't eat green vegetables. I had a friend up in Montana. Would not eat anything green. He thought it was rotten. Wouldn't eat lettuce. Wouldn't eat broccoli. Wouldn't eat Brussels sprouts. Wouldn't eat anything green. Hated hated St. Patrick's Day because they painted everything green. He would eat mashed potatoes, but not green mashed potatoes. Sure, you put food coloring on the mashed potatoes. It's St. Patrick's Day. Duh. Or you can put broccoli in mashed potatoes. They're making mashed potatoes now with cauliflower, and the reason they're making it with cauliflower is because cauliflower is white. Well, cauliflower and broccoli taste a lot alike. They're both crucifers. They taste cabbagey. But if you put broccoli in your mashed potatoes, you can barely taste them, and your mashed potatoes are green.
During the holidays, I went to a dinner and I had mashed potatoes
with vinegar. With vinegar? Oh, that sounds cool. I like vinegar.
Oh, yeah, it just looks like guacamole.
Yeah, it looks like guacamole. Or you can put carrots in it, and it's a little bit sweeter because carrots are sweet. And it's orange. You have orange mashed potatoes. Orange mashed potatoes. Try it. I mean, what do mashed potatoes taste like anyway? They kind of taste like potatoes, but what you're really eating it for is the salt. It has salt and pepper in it. Well, if you put pepper, but it's got butter in it, and it's got it's got salt in it. So you're eating it for the salt. You can't really taste the potatoes that much anyway. My son makes mashed potatoes by squeezing it through a ricer. So his mashed potatoes are like so thick. There's no lumps in it at all. I mean, it's just like fluff. That's great. Of course, he puts like a pound of butter in it. Yeah. He went to like cordon bleu, where they teach them French cooking. So they, exactly. So they put a lot of butter in everything. What are we doing? Oh, they don't eat fruit. So even in season, they don't eat fruit. They don't exercise. They watch too much television. They don't get at least 7 hours of sleep a night, and so that's why they're gaining so much weight. My wife went to the sleep therapist yesterday. She discovered that she has sleep apnea. Right now, I told you all this shit that's going on with my poor wife. Her blood pressure's high. She's pre-diabetic. What else? She has she's starting to develop arthritis in her left knee. She's got all this shit going on. They're thinking that it's all due to the fact she's not getting any sleep. So now they're going to, she has to go through one therapy session, and then they're going to give her what they call a CPAP. A CPAP is a thing that holds your breathing apparatus open, your esophagus and whatnot, and it pumps oxygen into your lungs. So she's going to be able to sleep. She hasn't been sleeping. I must be the dumbest person in the world. But now they think that her diabetes is going to go away, that she's having problems controlling her weight, that's going to go away, her arthritis is going to go away, her high blood pressure is going to go away. All this stuff's going to go away because she's able to sleep. So 7 hours of sleep a night is very, very important. If you're asthmatic and you have to sit up to go to sleep, do it. Sleep is the most important thing in your whole life, as odd as that sounds. If you're not dreaming, then potentially you're not sleeping. So if you're not dreaming, then you need to do something to be able to go to sleep. I'm not talking about taking pills. If you take pills, you just have discounted all this good stuff that's going to happen to you. Don't take pills to go to sleep, because then you're going to become addicted to those pills, and you're going to have to take those pills in order to go to sleep. You're conditioning your body to have those pills in your system in order to sleep, and that's even worse. So sleep is the most important thing to you. It's okay to not sleep one night a week, that's okay. You're going to make it up the next night and the next night, that's fine. But you need to get your 7 or 8 hours sleep a night. And if you do that, you're going to be healthier. Your basal metabolism rate is going to be higher. You're going to be able to repair parts of your body. If you don't get sleep, then you're going to break down really, really, really fast. And when I say really, really, really fast, I'm talking about within years instead of decades. I'm 70 years old, damn it, and I can still do 50 push-ups. You want to see?
Yes. One hand.
Do you really want to see me do 50 push-ups? I'll have to take my coat off. Is that okay? You guys won't be offended? You think I can? I don't know. I haven't done push-ups in a while. Let's see if I can do it. I bragged about it. My back gets sore just standing. I'm going to do push-ups. They challenged me to do push-ups.
It's not a workout. That's what you do.
Oh.
I
have to do 3-point push-ups. Okay.
5, 10, 15, 20, 25.
Lower. Just kidding.
Somebody put your foot on his back.
One arm now.
Let's go, Marine.
Let's do it.
Air Force.
Air Force. Let's go, Air Force.
Dude, how old are you? How old are you? I can't even do a push-up.
Your face is red.
I'm old.
I should have took a video and put goals.
You can only do 10?
No, my body's too heavy for my arms.
No. Anyway, okay.
I need to work out now. Just kidding. All week now.
Okay, wimps, let me...
Your turn.
Dieting alone does not usually work to take off weight and keep it off. And this is something I've been telling my wife for, ever. She had to lose weight when she was in the military. And so, I couldn't get her to exercise. But she would diet. She went on a prisoner of war diet, a Vietnamese prisoner of war diet where she only ate fish and brown rice. My God, it was horrible. Of course, I can't eat
No,
fish.
whatever happened to Richard Simmons?
He's still alive.
Yeah.
Didn't he go crazy and isolate himself in his own house? And,
Top fit for a couple of decades.
well, he used to be on Dave Letterman all the time. And as soon as Dave left television, he like locked himself in his house and wouldn't come out. As weird as that is. Anyway, I don't know. You can look him up. Richard Simmons. He used to make fun of him. He told him he was gay, which he probably is. Not that that's important. But of course, Dave's from Indiana, so that's a big joke. Being from Indiana. Where do you think Dave Letterman lives now?
Back in the
No.
Canada.
Close, Montana. Okay. A good program will not only include dieting, but a regular exercise program as well to raise the basal metabolic rate. Americans spend billions of dollars on weight control programs every year. We also buy gym memberships and never go. And that's okay with the gym. They're just there to make money, so they don't care if you go or not. As a matter of fact, as long as you pay, they're perfectly happy to let you pretend that you're going to go. Good intentions, right? That's more important than anything else. Good intentions to go to the gym. Right, Denise? Go to the gym. They're trying to sell me insurance. You need life insurance. You're going to die. No, I'm not. Weight loss won't happen unless you are motivated and self-disciplined. Set a weight loss goal that is realistic. Small goals can be adjusted downward when the small goals are accomplished. And this is the way to lose weight. If you say, I want to lose 50 pounds, you're not going to lose 50 pounds. If you say, I want to lose 5 pounds, then potentially you can lose that in a couple of weeks. And then after you lose that 5 pounds, you can say, oh, geez, well, that was easy enough. I think I'll lose another 5 pounds. And then you lose that 5 pounds in about a week. And then you say, geez, that was simple as pie. I think I'll lose another 5 pounds. That's the way you need to do it, in small increments. It's a lot easier to maintain yourself if you're not going, oh, geez, I still got 35 pounds to go. That's my goal. You're more likely to slip. But if you're only losing 5 pounds at a clip, it's a lot easier to lose those 5 pounds. And that's what this lady's done. You can see her guts out to here, and her guts out to here, and now she looks a lot better. Now no, it's not that interesting. Why does she have a t-shirt on in the last picture? She's got her bra on in this picture, she's got a bikini on in this picture. Why is she wearing a t-shirt in this picture? Why?
Why is she wearing a t-shirt?
Yeah, why she's got a bra on in this picture, she's got a bikini on in this picture, and she's got a t-shirt on in this picture. Why is that?
Confident in her skin.
Why? I'm sorry?
She lost weight and maybe she's comfortable with her skin.
Oh, she's got wrinkly skin? It's a possibility. This is one of the reasons my wife hates to lose weight. Her chest is the first place she loses weight. And that's what's happened here. She's pretty buxom in this picture. She's okay in this picture. She's kind of flat in this picture, and that's why she wears the t-shirt. It's just the way it works.
My husband and I were talking about obese women, they dress and cover themselves, but once they lose weight, they show off everything off. Yeah, we were talking about that.
This is really kind of interesting because this has to do with social psychology, of course. So the question is why? Why in the world all of a sudden are they showing so much skin?
Confidence. They never experienced that being center of attention.
The other person that shows a lot of skin is a person that has had breast implants. All of a sudden, she's showing just tons of cleavage. Sometimes she just goes topless. Why in the world would she suddenly do this if she wasn't doing it before?
She's never had the attention.
You're thinking of this too positively. It's not that positive. What's actually happening is she doesn't see that as her body. That's not her. She's not those boobs. I meant chest. Those aren't her breasts. She doesn't feel like they're real. So she can show all the chest she wants, and it's not really her. The face is her. The rest of it's not her. Same way with somebody that's obese. They don't feel like this is really them. They're not this person. If you talk to people that have been obese and have lost weight, they say that when they look at themselves in the mirror, they still see the fat person. And this will go on for the rest of their lives. They will always see themselves as the fat person. Some of the comedians who have lost a lot of weight, who were obese and then they became comedians, they will say that every time they look in the mirror, they see the stupid fat kid, despite the fact that they're not fat anymore. Who's the guy? There was a black comedian that was really big, and then he lost all this weight because he went on a hunger strike because of civil rights. Dick Gregory, and he said that. He looks in the mirror, despite the fact he was so slender that he looked almost skeletal. He said he still sees the fat. And he doesn't think he's funny at all. Because his humor had to do with his obesity, not with his slenderness. So now that he's slender, I think he's dead now. When he was slender, he didn't see himself as funny anymore.
There was the guy from Good Morning America.
Yeah, he was kind of punchy, wasn't he?
Yeah.
But he had surgery that way. He had surgery. Right?
Yeah, he had his stomach stapled or something. It works. He's still alive, which is a bit of a shock. A lot of times when you lose that much weight that fast, something horrible happens to you. I had a student that was kind of big. She was a white girl, but she was married to a native guy. And she decided that she hated herself fat, so she wanted to lose weight. So she got her stomach stapled. At the same time, the richest guy in the county decided he would get his stomach stapled. So they kind of went into surgery at the same time. They recovered at the same time. Both were dead within 6 months. And the reason he died was because he had his stomach stapled, but he was trying to eat too much food. You can't eat a lot of food because your stomach is no longer the size it was before. But he ate the same amount of food. He blew his stomach up, and he died from septicemia. She died of leukemia. Yeah, because when she had her stomach stapled, it caused, she already had leukemia. She didn't realize it at first, but because she went through that trauma, the leukemia just took over her body, and she was dead within. Well, actually, she died within 6 weeks. Real surprise that she was dead. She was a smart lady, but she wanted to be slender. Ugh, don't do that. Losing a little weight. How do you do that? The good one is gone. I don't know what happened to it. It disappeared. So now I got this one. Come on. Denise, I told you to tell me not to move it. Jeez, you're always causing trouble. There it goes. Okay. Losing a little weight, make healthy food choices, eat lots of fruits and vegetables, eat whole grains as much as possible, consume legumes, Legumes or beans, green beans or legumes, soybeans or legumes. Eat healthy fats, not unhealthy fats, of course. Stay away from trans fats. Stay away from animal fats as much as possible. Don't cook in bacon grease, for example. Get more exercise. More exercise burns calories. It suppresses your appetite. It helps lower your weight set point. And of course, this guy, he's on the internet. He failed. He decided he was going to show everybody his weight loss, and it only lasted for about 6 months. And he's dead. Had a heart attack and died. Keep tempting food out of sight. Buy mostly fresh whole foods. Eat fruits, vegetables. Eat as much fish as you possibly can. Consume lean proteins like eggs. Once upon a time, they used to tell you that eggs were not good for you. It was poison. That if you were male, you could have 1 egg a week. If you're a female, you could have 1 egg a day. Remember, cholesterol is a precursor to hormones, and as long as you're ovulating, females could eat as many eggs as they wanted. But men, of course, they don't have as many hormones as females do. This is a German. It's an old German thing. Eat low-fat dairy products. Avoid processed packaged foods as much as possible. That's crackers and potato chips, jerky, probably the worst food in the world after hot dogs. Manage your portion size. Keep meals simple and modest in size. Even when eating healthy foods, don't eat more than the palm of your hand. As odd as that sounds, seems like it'd make you hungrier. Don't starve yourself to eat a big meal. This eating pattern slows metabolism and causes calories to be stored as fats. Eat slowly and beware of binge eating. The 2 slowest eaters that I've ever been around, one was my brother, who's still probably eating supper from 3 days ago. He eats really, really slow. And my son. My son doesn't start. You know, you call people at the table. He sits down at the table. He doesn't start eating until about 15 minutes into it. And then he eats so slow. It takes him hours to eat a meal. He savors every bite, which is good because, I mean, he doesn't eat nearly as much food as just about everybody else. But by the time he's finished, everybody has left the table and they're watching television or doing something else. My son is the slowest eater I've ever been around. And of course, he has maintained like 5% body fat for most of his 45 years. People who eat slowly tend to eat less. Conversely, you should not eat quickly. Eat when you drink alcohol or feel anxious. When you feel anxious, you're going to eat more fat because you're trying to consume that tryptophan. The tryptophan, which is a precursor to serotonin, which makes you less, dissipates your anxiety. Don't eat when you're drinking alcohol. Remember, alcohol, the first area of your body that it anesthetizes is the thinking portion of your brain. So because of that, you may overeat. People that drink a lot of alcohol and eat at the same time, they tend to vomit, and not because the alcohol does anything to them. It makes them stupid and they eat too much, and they overeat. And of course, this guy's eating spaghetti and drinking wine, which is probably not what you should do. These situations can cause you to overeat, of course, is what I was just talking about. Behavioral cognitive therapy to promote weight loss. Identify trigger eating cues and practice stimulus control. If every time you watch, I don't know, Magnum PI on television, it's on Monday nights at 8 o'clock. If every time you watch it you have to eat potato chips and drink a beer, then don't watch Magnum PI. It's a trigger. It's a food trigger, and you don't want to do that. If every time you're around your mom, she tries to feed you pasta and mutton stew, don't go near your mom when it's dinner time. She'll feed you pasta and mutton stew. This is a trigger. Slow eating with self-control techniques. You need to eat as slow as possible. Boost your metabolism with aerobic exercise. Aerobic exercise is just walking. It can also be jogging. It's not running so fast that you can't breathe, that you're breathing funny. It's running slow. It's bicycling slow. This is all aerobic exercise. Walking. Do that as much as possible. Create small-term contracts when smaller goals are reached. And this is what I was talking about before. If you need to lose 50 pounds, don't lose 50 pounds. Lose 5 pounds at a time. Lose it in 5-pound increments. And every time you make a 5-pound increment, then you reward yourself in some way, not with food. Reward yourself, or with a beer, or with, I don't know, how else you're, a latte. Are you drinking latte?
Just coffee.
Just coffee? Is it like black coffee?
Yeah.
No cream,
No
no
cream.
sugar, no. It's like that. Oh. Don't drink a Coke. No, drink all the Coke you want. Enlist family and friends to provide social support. This is the biggest problem that we have, is that sometimes we marry individuals who like us to be the way that we are. So when we try to change, they try to keep you the way you are, because they don't want you to change at all. They want you to be exactly that person. And it might be because they can control that person because of whatever it is that you see yourself, see the negative thing you see in yourself. And we see this a lot with alcoholics. Somebody marries an alcoholic. Why did they marry the alcoholic? The alcoholic's easy to control. They're more fun when they're drunk. So they like to have a good time. If you've ever seen the movie 28 Days with Sandra Bullock, and I don't remember the jackass that was her boyfriend. But if you remember, he just wanted to have a good time. And she was a fun time, as long as she was a drunk. When she was sober, she wasn't nearly as much fun. He didn't like her so much when she was not drunk. There was another movie made with Meg Ryan, and I can't remember the bad guy. But he had the same problem. She was a lot more fun when she was drunk. So he didn't like her so much when she wasn't drunk. And this is a way that people can control you. So you need to enlist your family and your friends to help you. If your friends are the people that you go out to drink with, then you need to say, look, if I go out with you guys, we can't go out to drink. Now, if they're assholes, if they're jerks, they will try to take you out and get you as drunk as you did before. If they use crystal meth, they want you to be a meth head, just like them. They don't want you to be any better than they are. They're not real friends. They're just acquaintances that you party with. They want to party, and you were fun when you were a partier. So these are not... You need to find somebody that will support your weight loss with... will support your weight loss. Or your getting away from your addiction. And food is an addiction, by the way. Maintain awareness by careful self-monitoring and record keeping. This works for people that are list makers. They write everything down. My wife writes everything down. Even if I go to the store and never make a list, I figure if I can't remember it, it's obviously not important enough to remember anyway. I'm a natural genius, and if I can't remember it wasn't important. But some people need to do this. They need to write everything down, and they don't do anything unless they write it down. My wife is a list maker, and she'll make a list at the beginning of the day, and she marks things off as she gets them done. And that makes her feel like she's gotten something done. But I used to be a farmer, and damn it, when I'm out in that field, and I'm plowing that field, I know when I'm finished. I don't have to make a list to go, plow. Oh, I got it. I can see it. It's right there. I can look back and, oh, look, I plowed the whole damn field. Or disc, or hoe, or whatever. Anyway, but my wife's a list maker. Anticipate urges, cravings, and high-risk situations with relapse prevention therapy. The reality is you're going to slip. Everybody slips. And this is a problem that my wife has, If she slips one time, she says, oh, it's all over with, I'm not gonna diet anymore. I can't do it. One time. Everybody relapses. She's just using it as an excuse. She's just using that as an excuse to stop her diet. And I told her that. Of course, she doesn't like me psychoanalyzing her. So, and she stayed away from me for like 3 days. And then I said, oh, I don't care if you stop your diet. I don't care if she just stops your diet. Self-directed dieting. Self-directed dieting is recommended for people with mild to moderate obesity unless the individual has a history of weight cycling. Weight cycling is where they get bigger and then they get smaller. It's yo-yo dieting in essence. It's weight cycling where they get heavier and lighter and heavier and lighter. Some individuals, especially females, like males menstruate. Some females will get heavier when they are menstruating, and then they'll lose weight, and then they'll gain weight, and then they'll lose weight, and they do this really strange weight cycling thing. For people who can not diet successfully on their own, there are commercial programs, Weight Watchers, which isn't Weight Watchers anymore, it's the W, isn't that what they call it now? They've changed the name. Jenny Craig is another one. Some people can't do it by themselves, and they need a commercial organization to help them. Very low calorie and surgery are recommended only for people with medical problems complicated by obesity. And I've been in on these low calorie diets that we put people on. We'll bring them into the hospital. We'll force them down to, 800 calories a day. So they're eating really thin soup and they're eating lettuce and no carrots. No carrots. It's too much sugar in the carrots. Anyway, so we're putting them on an 800 calorie a day diet. Or the water diet, which is, but it works. Really works. How much weight did you lose on the water diet? 20. And you won. You lost the most weight. Yeah. Water diet really works. What you do with the water diet is that before you eat, you drink a big glass of water. And then you try to eat, but of course your stomach's already full of water. So you don't eat nearly as much. It controls your food intake because you had all that water to drink. The problem is that water will dilute your blood, and if it dilutes it also sucks potassium out of your cells, and that's not good, especially with brain. So if you stay on the water diet for an extended length of time, you'll have a psychotic episode. It's fun. We had this one lady, and I'm laughing about it. I apologize. I'm sorry. She came in, and the reason she came in was because she had tried to shoot the postman. She had a postman that delivered her mail to her house. And she had shot at him through the wall. And so, she's pumping all these shots at the guy, and he's taken off, and he called the cops, and the police came out, and they convinced her to put her gun down. And then she came into the hospital, and we drew her blood, and we found out her potassium was way, way low. And what happened was she had colon cancer, and she'd been constipated like all of her life. And the doctor said, well, you need to drink water. So this lady started drinking water by the gallon. She'd carry around a gallon jug, and she would take swigs of it through the day. Well, in essence, she wasn't eating any other foods. She was just drinking the water. And she was obsessive about it. I mean, she had this gallon milk jug that she carried around. And here she's just swigging this thing all over the place. Well, a normal potassium, what is it? Wait a minute. Sodium and potassium. The normal potassium is like 4.0 to 5.0. That's it. That's your normal potassium. And we have no problem maintaining a 4.0 to 5.0. And hers was a 1.3. She had lowered her potassium so much that her brain cells, her neurons in her brain, were not functioning properly. So she became paranoid. And that's why she started shooting at the postman. So what we had to do was take her water away from her, but she was obsessive about the water. So people had to go to her house and take away her milk jug. Of course, she had water. She had a toilet to flush. She had to flush her toilet. So she came in again, and it was exactly the same thing. She was sitting down and she was drinking 16 ounces of water every time she sat down. And she was diluting her blood out. She was sucking all the potassium out of her system. Not that funny, and she did go psychotic, and she almost killed the postman. So anyway, but she had been doing this for about a couple months or so. So you're okay. And you don't do that anymore. You're not on the water diet. Okay. So you got to be very careful. And hopefully the doctor told you that before you went on the water diet, that if you drank too much, that you might have erratic thoughts. No, well, you shouldn't. I'm telling you, okay? Don't ever go on that water diet and just drink the water. If you feel like everybody's out to get you, then potentially you're having a psychotic episode and you need to control it. Stop drinking the water. For people with diabetes and other medical complications, medical supervision is recommended. Individual counseling and behavioral weight loss programs are considered appropriate for those with eating disorders. Yay! By promoting the availability of affordable healthy foods and beverages, what are we doing? We're supporting healthy living. You need to promote the availability of affordable healthy foods and beverages. This is a complaint on the reservation. If you go to the gas station, sometimes they have lettuce and sometimes tomatoes and usually they don't. They have water there, but they also have a whole refrigerator full of soft drinks. And so, you go there, what do you feel like buying? Am I going to buy the water? Am I going to buy the Coke? I'm buying the Coke too. I'm not going to buy that damn water. Seems stupid to spend more money for water than for pop. When I can get water out of the tap for a penny or something. Just seems stupid.
This was free.
You got a free Coke? You didn't get me one? Thanks anyway, pal. By supporting healthy food and beverage choices, encouraging breastfeeding, really encouraging breastfeeding, encouraging physical activity or limiting sedentary activity among youth and teens, creating safe communities that support physical activity, encouraging communities to organize for change. Of course, you've got that movement on the reservation, something about just move it or something like that. Isn't that the? Yeah, that's it. Okay, just move it. What are we talking about? We're talking about our fat asses. We just need to get our fat asses moving. Speaking of fat asses, she doesn't have one. Anorexia nervosa is an eating disorder characterized by failure to maintain body weight and a BMI below 8. Anorexia causes slowed thyroid function, irregular heartbeat, irregular breathing, low blood pressure, dry and yellowed skin, as attractive as that is, brittle bones, anemia, lightheadedness, dehydration, swollen joints, reduced muscle mass, intolerance to cold temperatures, and of course starvation. Anorexia has a mortality rate of 2 to 15%. Karen Carpenter, of course, died of anorexia nervosa. She died of her heart stopped beating, but she was anorexic when she died. This happens all the time, unfortunately, and they die. And of course, I don't know how attractive you think skeletal is, but personally, I'm not into skeletons, except on skeletons. Some people will binge eat compulsively, but without the compensatory purging or fasting, and this is known as binge eating disorder, where they just eat masses of food. If they vomit that food or do something to get rid of all that binge eating, then it's known as bulimia nervosa. Binging and purging. Some people will compulsively purge while others only purge after binging. Some will consume up to 10,000 calories in one sitting before purging. And if you want to know what 10,000 calories looks like, it's a dozen donuts and a large pepperoni pizza. That's 10,000 calories. Okay, so if you can eat all that, all those calories, a lot of sugar on top of that, a lot of stuff on top of it too. That's 10,000 calories. Anyway. About half of college women will participate in bulimic behavior from one time or another. But to be diagnosed with bulimia nervosa, the individual must have at least one binge episode a week for a minimum of 3 months. A lack of control over eating, behavior designed to avoid weight gain, and persistent exaggerated concern about weight gain. I spend a lot of time in the gym, in the weight gym, lifting weights. When I was at Ashford, the sports teams would come in and lift. The tennis team would come in and lift. The tennis coach was big. He was fat. He was obese. But he forced his players his tennis players, to fast. He forced them to diet. He wanted them all to be very, very slender. They discovered that that's what he was doing. And he was forcing them to, he didn't force them to become bulimic, but a lot of them, that's the way they controlled their weight, was through bulimia. And when the athletic director discovered that, he not only fired the guy, but of course he changed tried to change the behavior of especially the female tennis players. And of course some of these individuals were my students. I used to lift weights with them. Strangely enough, they didn't lift heavy weights. They only lifted really light weights. It was really kind of weird. So they bench pressed like a 45-pound bar, which I thought was useless. 45, that's what you did? Anyway, they fired him. They fired this great big fat guy. And then it turned out the other coaches were doing the same thing. The softball coach, the bowling coach was doing the same thing. And all those coaches got fired because they were trying to control the weight. As it turned out, of course, Ashford closed the next year. So they were actually just trying to get rid of the money. They're trying to get rid of the wages. Bulimia is rarely fatal, but can have serious health consequences. Laxative dependence, hypoglycemia, and lethargy from eating an unbalanced diet. And the tennis team was terrible. They were just terrible. They had really good tennis players, but they didn't play with any energy. And the reason was because they were all trying to maintain weight. He wouldn't let them play unless they came in underweight. He had a weight set point for each one of them. And if they were heavier than that, he wouldn't let them play. Well, we had this one girl from Germany, and I don't know if you know anything about Germans. They tend to be tall, they tend to be broad-shouldered, and he wanted her to be, weigh up like 120 pounds. Well, she couldn't weigh 120 pounds, if she didn't have any body fat at all. He wanted her to be not just have no body fat, but also no muscle mass either. And so she kept losing weight. And he wouldn't let her play, and he wouldn't let her play. She was really good, but he wouldn't let her play, and finally they got rid of him. She went back to her normal weight, and she was like the conference champion because she had energy now, and before she didn't have any energy. Damaged teeth from hydrochloric acid in the stomach juices, tearing and bleeding in the esophagus from vomiting, anemia and electrolyte imbalance. When I was teaching down in Mississippi, I taught at Mississippi University for women. One of the problems we had was bulimia. The Mississippi girls, for some reason, this was the technique they used to maintain themselves. They wanted to be slender. Anyway, all these girls had what they call shadow teeth. They were gray, ghost teeth, because they had eaten away the whole backs of their teeth. Because they vomited so much. And so a lot of them had false teeth. These skinny little girls had false teeth. It's really kind of tragic if you think about it. Now, the funny thing is, when and of course I've given this lecture over and over and over again, I talk about bulimia nervosa in child and adolescent development and general psychology, and I was teaching all this stuff over and over and over again. Every time I gave this lecture, those girls would either look down at they would just look down and not look up, or they would skip the lecture if they knew that I was going to talk about bulimia, because they felt so guilty about it, these individuals that did that. I don't know why it was more popular in Mississippi than it was anyplace else. Unlike almost all mental illnesses, this is back in the 90s, back in 1995, 1996. Unlike almost all mental illnesses, anorexia and bulimia sufferers are 75% female. Almost all the other mental illnesses, it's more prevalent in males, but anorexia and bulimia is almost exclusively female. Before the 1970s, eating disorders only appeared among upper middle class women in Western cultures. Before 1900, eating disorders were unheard of because there wasn't enough food. There were no fast foods, so people couldn't become obese. There was no way to become obese. It is estimated that people in the United States suffering from eating disorders, 0.6% of the population is anorexic, 1% are bulimic, 2.8% are have binge eating disorder, where they just eat masses of food at one sitting, as weird as that may seem. So it's very common in the United States today, and there are the chubby little guys. Mom just can't say no. What time is it? Oh, that's chapter 2. That's not right. Okay. Have I picked on you for the last time? You're taking off on me? Okay. That's all right. That's all right. That's okay. I'll stop picking on you in the future. No, I won't. Chapter 9 is about substance abuse. Of course, those of you taking drug use and abuse, this is going to be a repeat of everything that I've told you before. We've got about 3 minutes. Let me at least get started on this chapter, if I can figure out how to do it. While a drug user merely uses drugs, a drug abuser abuses a drug to the extent that it impairs their biological, psychological, or social well-being. Worldwide, alcohol and tobacco are the most widely used drugs, of course. The abuse of illegal drugs, alcohol, and tobacco is the cause of more deaths, illnesses, and disabilities than any other preventable health condition. Alcohol is the third largest risk factor for disease in the world after the lack of food for children and unsafe sex. We're talking about primarily HIV here. 2.5 million deaths a year occur due to alcohol, most because of accidents caused by the alcohol. There are 320,000 deaths a year caused by alcohol use by young adults. You guys can blame Europeans. There was almost no alcohol consumed in the Americas before the Europeans came here. It is a curse that we brought with us. What? So how did you pay us back? Tobacco. So which kills people more? Tobacco or alcohol? No, tobacco. So thanks a lot, you guys. We really appreciate the poison that you gave us. I'm sure you appreciate the poison that we gave you. Okay. But you also gave us corn, and you also gave us potatoes, and you also gave us tomatoes. Wheat, we gave you guys wheat. We gave you pigs. We gave you cows. We gave you horses. You can eat horses. You're hungry. So we traded stuff back and forth. We traded you good stuff for good stuff. We also traded you bad stuff for bad stuff. And I apologize. It didn't have anything to do with me. I didn't make that decision. Somebody else did. I'll stop right here.